God. Ask God.
Hi, Scott. This is Nora. I've been listening to your podcast and really appreciate what you do. It's helping me so much. I'm still in the beginning stages and still trying to choose my first product, and I've been hearing a lot about these hijackers and just wondering what's the difference in a hijacker and someone new like myself coming in and looking for a new product. Because, what I'm doing is I'm looking for a product that's doing well on Amazon that is a field that I could still compete with, that has low reviews and lots of sales and the kinds of recommendations that you've been giving. But what would make me different from a hijacker whenever I choose a product? What is to prevent somebody who already has that product up to come at me and tell me that I need to take it down? So that's my question. Hope you can help me with that. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Hey, Nora, thank you so much for the question. And this is a good question. Some people might be thinking that are already listening to the podcast, like, well, okay, isn't that pretty obvious? But it's really not. For people that are just starting out, you would think something like this. And there's a difference, okay? And I'm going to clear this up really quickly. This is actually a quick question. So it actually works out perfect because this week we went a little bit longer. But I wanted to answer your question because I know people out there could be thinking the same exact thing. And there's two different things that we're talking about here. Number one, what you're asking is, Scott, if I go out there and I find some products that are doing really well and I sell that product, isn't that hijacking? Aren't I like taking that person's idea or that person's product and then competing against them? That's okay. That's not hijacking, okay? That's like you going out there modeling what's working and then making yours a little bit better and then improving it and then selling it, doing better marketing, like all that stuff. Like if they have a patent on it, that's a different story. If they have a patent on it, you need to know that beforehand, and then you're gonna have to do a little bit of research on that. But again, we're talking about products that are more or less a generic type product in a sense, to where you know that there's not a patent, or you've done your research, or you've hired an attorney to say, is this a patent violation? And actually, speaking of that, I probably should have mentioned this too. Man, the resources page is just blowing up right now because I had Sam Boyd on, who runs Guided Imports, actually the owner of Guided Imports, and he turned me on to a patent search company, and I'm going to try them out myself personally, but I'm going to link that up in the resources page and the show notes, because I think he told me it's like a $200 or $250 search to do that. And they're very extensive. They do a really good job when normally an attorney is going to cost you a lot more, and they'll give you a lot of background on that. So definitely check that out. I'm going to throw that up on the resources page and on the show notes by the time this show goes live. I just thought about that, and I have it in my notes to actually add it to the resources. So definitely check that out if you're at all concerned, anyone that's listening, with a patent or a violation, because you want to do that work up front. So this way here, you're not infringing on that, because if you are, now you've got 1,000 SKUs, or not 1,000 SKUs, 1,000 of that item, and then all of a sudden you can't sell it. Now that's bad. Now that's really bad, because now how do you get rid of the product? You technically can't. You have to destroy it. They won't even let you sell it. So that could be a big deal, and definitely want to make sure that you're not doing that. But what we're talking about when we talk about hijacking, we're talking about you creating your own product, okay, or modeling someone else's that's doing pretty well, or that you think that you can get to. Let's say my rule of thumb is like I like 10 units a day, so 300 a month. Let's do some quick math here. So it's 10 a day, 30 days, that's 300 a month, $10 profit. That's my 10 by 10 by 1 that I look at. And that's what I generally try to use as my rule. But let's just say, for example, you find the product, you say, okay, I can modify this a little bit. I can do a tweak here. I can do a tweak there. I can add better packaging. I can add a better, set of images. I can do better listing optimization. And then you create this product. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what we're talking about doing. But now let's say someone comes in and goes, oh, wow, look at this person's doing a really good job. I'm going to blatantly rip off that product. I'm going to have the exact same brand on that product, and I'm going to sell on your listing. So you've created the listing. Technically, people aren't allowed or are supposed to be allowed to sell on that, especially if you're brand registered, if it's not the exact same item. So if you have your product branded, if you have it, specially created and all that stuff, and someone else is selling it with your logo and your brand on it, that's a hijack situation. Now, in some instances, someone might have bought 5 of your item over on eBay because someone bought your product and they wanted to get rid of it and they never opened it out of the box. That's legit. They can do that. That's technically what we call retail arbitrage. Like we can technically go out to a store, which we teach in the 1K Fast Track, and we go ahead and look at Target, look at Lowe's, or any store for that matter that runs a clearance sale at the end of a holiday. And then we can resell that on Amazon on that listing. So technically, that's not really hijacking because we're not taking over it and trying to steal sales. That company is fine with it as long as we bought that through a retailer or if it's a legit product. Maybe they sold 10 units at a closeout sale and we bought them. That's fine. You can list it on there because it's the exact same item with the exact same SKU. That's the other thing. So you just want to make sure that you're understanding that hijacking is different than you going out and modeling a product that's doing fairly well, and then you just do your best to make it better, improve it, do better images, listing optimization, better pay-per-click, all that stuff, maybe build an email list, external traffic, like all that stuff. That's what we're talking about. So hopefully that makes sense. I know to a lot of people that are just getting started, a lot of these terms that we throw out there, we kind of expect that people all know it, but you know what? In the beginning, we didn't know it. I mean, people are like, what are you talking about? A hijacking thing? That's like terrible. Like what? That's a terrible reference. Yeah, well, that's what the market has kind of coined it as. So we have to kind of use that terminology so we all kind of understand what we're talking about. So that's kind of how it goes. Thank you so much for listening to that episode of Ask Scott. Now, that was just a highlight from one of our full episodes where I generally answer 3 to 4 questions on a podcast. If you want to go back and listen to all of the past archives of not just the Ask Scott session, but all of the full episodes where I do interviews with top Amazon sellers, people starting from scratch and building a business, if you want to listen to any of those episodes, head over to theamazingseller.com and you can find all of that over there. You can also find details there on how you can ask your own question and get it aired on an upcoming Ask Scott session and possibly see it here on YouTube or just on the podcast. All right, so definitely head over to theamazingseller.com. There's tons of resources over there for you to be able to build your e-commerce and Amazon business. So definitely go check that out. Now, I just wanted to remind you one thing before I let you go. There's a lot of information out there and some of it is really, really good. What I want you to remember is you have to not just consume the information, you have to actually apply that information. So take this information that you learned here today and apply it to your business. And this way here, you can get results. As my shirt says, I wear it almost daily. Take action. We'll see you guys.